Story 1. The Shadow in the Co-op. At 19, college was my proving ground, a chance to carve my own path. But when the dorms filled up after freshman year, I scrambled for a place to call home. The co-op I landed in wasn't much, a cluster of 3 aging houses on the edge of campus, their paint peeling like old skin, tucked in a neighborhood that felt half forgotten. It was cheap though, and with my bike to bridge the distance, I made peace with it. The houses buzzed with young students like me, their laughter spilling into the halls. But a few older residents, alumni, TAs, late bloomers, added a quiet weight to the place, as if they carried secrets the rest of us were too green to notice. Among them was her, the woman who seemed to belong nowhere. She lived in the second house, a graying figure in her late 50s, her hair brittle, her walk uneven, like every step cost her something. She was a ghost in plain sight, silent, her face a blank mask that gave nothing away. I pegged her for faculty, maybe an alumna tethered to the university by some obscure thread, but no one spoke of her, and I didn't ask. In a co-op where noise was currency, music, arguments, late-night debates, she was a void, and that alone made her stand out. The first time she unnerved me was in the common kitchen, a cramped space where our house's residents collided over half-cooked meals and stolen fridge space. The other houses had their own kitchens, so her presence felt wrong, like a stranger at a family table. She wasn't cooking or eating, just standing there, her eyes drifting over us as we laughed and clinked bottles, music pulsing through the room. I caught her gaze once, twice, and a chill crawled up my spine. Her stare felt personal, like she'd singled me out. No one else seemed to notice her, their chatter unbroken, and I wondered if I'd imagined the weight of her attention. Shaking it off, I told myself she was just lonely, harmless, a relic out of place. But the kitchen was only the beginning. A week later, I was hunched over textbooks in my room, the co-op's thin walls humming with distant life, when a flicker of movement caught my eye. I glanced at the window, and there she was, standing in the street, her silhouette sharp against the dusk. Not on the sidewalk, but in the middle of the road, her head tilted up, staring straight at my window. My breath hitched. It was late, the air biting, yet she stood frozen, her coat too thin for the cold. Was she looking at me, or the house itself? I couldn't tell, but the intensity of it pinned me to my chair. On impulse, I raised a hand, a clumsy wave to break the tension. The moment my fingers moved, I regretted it. Her blank face cracked into something else. Excitement, maybe, or hunger. She jumped once, twice, like a child spotting a prize, then bolted toward her house, her limp forgotten in her haste. My stomach churned. I'd confirmed it. She'd been watching me, and now she knew my room. Sleep didn't come easy that night, the memory of her stare lingering like a bad dream. I asked around, desperate for answers. A housemate, Lee, shrugged and said she'd always been there, advising me to ignore her like everyone else did. He didn't know more, or wouldn't say. Another resident, a senior from her house, was KGA. She's tied to the university, he muttered. A bit off, but not dangerous. His words felt hollow, and when I pressed why no one questioned her presence, he blamed the property manager, a faceless figure who called the shots. It didn't sit right, but I had no leverage, so I tried to push her out of my mind, locking my door each night, a habit from my days running with Jay and Anthony in our old neighborhood, where trust was earned, not assumed. Then came the night that broke me. I'd lost my room key days earlier, a minor crisis in a co-op where doors were often left open. But for me, that lock was a lifeline. The houses, once a single hotel, had sturdy locks, and I'd always kept mine secure, a shield against the chaos of shared living. Losing it meant a trip to the locksmith, an expense I couldn't afford, and a nagging unease I couldn't shake. I'd been on edge, jumping at shadows, her face flashing in my mind every time I passed her house. Past midnight on a Tuesday, the co-op was still, its usual clamor muted. I stepped out of my room for a glass of water and froze. She was there, inches from my door, her frail frame blocking the hallway. My heart lurched, a yelp escaping before I could stop it. She didn't flinch, didn't speak, just turned and shuffled away, her footsteps eerily silent. I stood there, pulse racing, wondering how she'd gotten in, why she'd been there. The next few weeks were a blur of unease, catching her in stairwells, glimpsing her shadow near the laundry. Each encounter tightening the knot in my gut. Then came the worst night. I woke abruptly, the room cloaked in darkness, my clock glowing 2 a.m. A faint sound pulled me upright, a soft, rhythmic thump from my closet, like something shifting behind the door. Every 20 seconds it came again, steady, deliberate. I wasn't a coward. I'd faced worse than noises in the night. But this felt different, wrong. I slid out of bed, my bare feet cold against the floor, and grabbed a flashlight, its weight a small comfort. My breath shallow, I crept to the closet, each thump louder, more insistent. Steeling myself, I yanked the door open and screamed. A raw, primal sound meant to scare whatever waited. She was there, crouched in the closet, her eyes wide and wild. One of my ties knotted around her neck like a noose. In her hand, a kitchen knife gleamed, its blade catching the flashlight's beam. My scream startled her. She lunged, the knife slashing toward me. Instinct took over. I dodged, grabbing her wrist, her frail body no match for my adrenaline-fueled strength. We hit the floor, her kicks feeble but desperate, her teeth snapping at my arm as I pinned her. "Help!" I roared, my voice echoing through the house. Doors slammed, footsteps thundered, and Lee burst in, his eyes wide as he helped me hold her down. She fought like a cornered animal, silent even now, her blank stare replaced by something feral. Someone called the police, and soon the room filled with flashing lights and sharp voices. They found my key in her pocket, a cold confirmation of my fears. She'd been inside before, watching, planning. The cops hauled her away, her silence deafening, her eyes locked on me until the door closed. Weeks later, the truth trickled out. She was the property manager's sister, hidden in the co-op to keep her out of sight, her mental illness untreated, her presence a secret he'd buried. He'd given her a room, no questions asked, and when her obsession turned to me, he'd done nothing. They arrested him for negligence, but it was cold comfort. I blamed him more than her. Her broken mind wasn't the real crime, but his indifference was. I moved out soon after. The co-op's walls no longer a home, but a cage. College stretched on, but that night stayed with me, a shadow I couldn't outrun, a reminder that safety is a lie we tell ourselves to sleep. Story 2, the house across the street. For 20 years, our 2-story home on Maple Lane was a haven. Benjamin and I raised our kids there, watched them grow and leave, their laughter replaced by the quiet hum of retirement. The neighborhood, a patchwork of families and empty nesters, felt like an extension of our lives. Predictable, safe, the kind of place where you waved at neighbors and swapped stories over coffee. I spent my days on the front porch, knitting, reading, or losing myself in true crime podcasts, the world's darkness a distant thrill. Benjamin would join me, his newspaper rustling, our small rituals grounding us in a life well lived. Last year, the house across the street, vacant too long, its windows dark, came alive again. A young man moved in, mid-20s, with a sleek BMW that gleamed under the streetlights and clothes that screamed money. I figured he was either rich or faking it, but when he introduced himself as Quinn, his smile was warm, disarming. He chatted with Benjamin about sports, stocks, and old college days, stories I hadn't heard in years. Quinn worked in entertainment, he said, freelancing for some online star, a world I didn't understand but didn't need to. He was bright, charming, and for the first time in months, the street felt whole again. I watched him from the porch, not prying, just curious. Quinn waved each time he left, and I waved back, a small ritual of our own. Then I noticed her, a young woman, blonde, maybe 20, pulling up in a white convertible. She dressed bold, short skirts, bright colors, nothing like the moms on our street. I assumed she was his girlfriend, especially when I saw her let herself in with a key while Quinn was out. Once, twice a week, she'd come, stay an hour, then leave, her car's engine a sharp note in the quiet. I didn't judge. Love moves fast when you're young, but something about her felt off, like she was claiming a space that wasn't hers. One evening, I saw them together, Quinn driving, her in the passenger seat, laughing like the world was theirs. It confirmed what I'd guessed. They were a couple, navigating the messy dance of youth. But soon cracks appeared. One afternoon, as I tended my roses, shouts erupted across the street. Quinn and the girl stood in his driveway, their voices sharp, her hands flailing like she might hit him. I couldn't hear the words, but the anger was raw, electric. She stormed to her car, slammed the door, and sped off, leaving Quinn to shake his head and disappear inside. Lovers' quarrels, I told myself, remembering my own fights with Benjamin decades ago. It wasn't my place to meddle, but she kept coming back when Quinn wasn't home. Her car would appear, bold as ever, and she'd slip inside, her visits longer, more frequent. I mentioned it to Benjamin, who frowned and said to let it be. Young folks have their ways, he muttered. But my podcasts had taught me to trust my gut, and it whispered something was wrong. I kept watch, not obsessive, just aware. The porch my vantage point as the street carried on its sleepy rhythm. Then came the night that changed everything. Benjamin and I were asleep, the house dark, when sirens tore through the quiet. We stumbled outside, joining neighbors drawn by the chaos. Quinn's house was a circus, police cars, an ambulance, lights slicing the night. My heart sank as officers emerged. The girl in handcuffs, her face blank, no fight left in her. Behind her, paramedics wheeled Quinn out on a stretcher, his shirt soaked red, his face pale. I gasped, clutching Benjamin's arm, the sight burning into me. Quinn vanished for a week, the street holding its breath. When he returned, we crossed the lawn to check on him, unable to stay away. He let us in, his usual spark dimmed, and poured out the truth. Her name was Ellie, and she wasn't supposed to have a key. She'd stolen his spare, copied it, and used it to invade his life. She'd demanded gifts, trips, a life he couldn't give. And when he pushed back, her anger turned vicious. The visits I'd seen weren't love, they were surveillance. She'd hacked his phone, tracked his every move, and planted cameras in his home, watching him through hidden lenses. The argument I'd witnessed was Quinn trying to end it. She'd refused, forcing a break he didn't want. The night of the sirens, she'd come with a knife. Quinn fought her off, barely, her blade slicing too close to his life. The police found the cameras, the stolen key, her confessions spilling like poison. She'd wanted to own him, and when she couldn't, she tried to destroy him. Quinn survived, but the house was no longer his. I flaunted too much, he said, voice hollow. It drew her in. He moved soon after, afraid her friends might know where he lived, their loyalty as dangerous as hers. The street feels emptier now, Quinn's house dark again. I pray he's safe, rebuilding somewhere far from her shadow. Benjamin holds me closer at night, and I wonder how love can twist into something so cruel. How a bright young man can carry scars no one sees. The porch is still my refuge, but I listen harder now, waiting for the next sound that doesn't belong. Story 3. The House Next Door. I moved to Willow Creek for a clean slate, my past a tangle of bad choices and a woman who wouldn't let go. Money came early, dumb luck, not genius, and I'd spent it on flash, surrounding myself with people who saw me as a prize, not a person. Lesson learned. The neighborhood was perfect. Quiet, low crime, houses spaced wide like they respected each other's secrets. Families dominated, their lives a world apart from mine, but I didn't mind. I wanted peace, not parties, and my modest house fit the bill. The only oddity was next door, a mansion, too close for comfort, its size dwarfing everything else. I figured a big family lived there. Generations piled under one roof. I was dead wrong. I played the good neighbor, introducing myself to everyone, saving the mansion for last. Exhausted from small talk, I almost skipped it, but curiosity won. When the door opened, I expected a tired dad, not Damon, a guy younger than me, maybe mid-20s with a mullet and a grin that lit up the dusk. Someone from my decade, he joked, and I laughed, venting about feeling like the odd man out among strollers and minivans. He waved it off, saying most folks kept to themselves. A relief for a guy like me, still raw from my old life's chaos. He invited me for a drink sometime, and I half joked, "Why not now?" His smile faltered, his eyes flicking over his shoulder like he was checking for ghosts. "Work," he said, vague, claiming finance but dodging details. Odd, but I let it slide. He lived alone, he added, which floored me. That house could have swallowed mine whole. We swapped numbers and I left, hopeful for a friend. But Damon was a mirage. Texts went unanswered, his excuses piling up. Work, always work. His car never left the driveway, no visitors came, no takeout arrived. He was a hermit in a palace, and I couldn't square it. My home office overlooked his property and, yeah, I glanced over sometimes. Not stalking, just puzzled. The guy lived like he was hiding, and the more I noticed, the less it made sense. 6 months in, everything shifted. I woke at 2 a.m. to music, loud, pulsing, rattling my open windows. Rubbing sleep from my eyes, I peered out and saw 7 cars clogging Damon's driveway, their headlights off. A party? On a Wednesday? I wasn't a prude. I'd thrown ragers in my day, nights with Jay and Anthony that left my old place trashed. But this felt wrong, too sudden for a guy who lived like a ghost. Irritated, I threw on a hoodie and crossed the lawn, the music louder with every step, laughter and clinking glasses spilling out. I knocked. Nothing. I pounded harder, the door vibrating under my fist, but no one came. Texting Damon felt pointless. He'd ghosted me before. I turned to leave, then stopped. The handle. I twisted it, expecting resistance, but the door swung open, smooth and silent. Inside, a pile of shoes greeted me. 10 pairs, maybe more, scattered in the foyer. Sneakers, heels, boots, like a party had just kicked off. But the house was empty. No voices, no movement, just the music, louder now, filling the silence with fake life. I stepped further, heart ticking faster. The living room was pristine. No cups, no mess, nothing to say people had been here. The kitchen was the same. Counters bare, sink dry. But the music wasn't music. It was a recording, looped voices laughing, shouting, glasses clinking, a lie played loud enough to fool the world. My skin prickled. The cars, the shoes. They meant people were here somewhere. I should have left, but I couldn't. I needed answers. A door stood ajar, leading to the basement. A faint light flickered below, pulling me forward. I descended, each step heavier, the air growing thick, cool. At the bottom, the light came from deeper in. Another door cracked open. A new sound joined the fake party above. A low, rhythmic grind, like machinery chewing through metal. My pulse hammered, but I crept closer, the grind louder, joined by a sharp chemical smell. Bleach, or something harsher, burning my nose. Through the crack, I saw them. 3 men, older, maybe 50s, in heavy work clothes, goggles, and rubber gloves, staring at something out of sight. Their boots were caked in dirt, nothing like the shoes upstairs. The grinding stopped, then started, deliberate, controlled. I wanted to see what held their gaze, but fear rooted me. The bleach smell grew stronger, and a wave of dread hit, raw and certain. I was in danger. I backed away, slow, silent, my eyes locked on the door. The light dimmed, like someone had closed it, and I ran. I sprinted upstairs, through the house, out the front door, not stopping until I'd vaulted my fence and slipped into my own home, locking every bolt. In my office, lights off, I crouched by the window watching. Minutes later, Damon's door flew open, 8 men spilling out, older like the ones below, no Damon among them. They scanned the street, tense, one shoving another, their voices low but angry. I held my breath, praying they didn't look my way. They retreated, the music died, and the night swallowed them. Morning came, and the cars were gone, Damon's included. I walked the block, glancing at his windows. Nothing. Days pass, then weeks. His house abandoned, grass growing wild, packages piling up. I asked neighbors about the noise. They stared blankly, claiming they'd heard nothing, even the ones with kids. I felt unmoored, like I'd dreamed it all, but the shoes, the grinding, the men, they were real. Damon never returned. His mansion a tomb of questions. Was it drugs? Worse? Why the fake party? The unlocked door? And why didn't anyone else hear it? I tell myself it's over, but at night I check the locks, wondering if he's out there, watching, waiting for me to forget.